Well, welcome everybody to the Mad Vlog. I am Albano the Madman, America's Jazz Lord. And supposing an introduction is in order because a lot of the new people coming in, maybe you don't know exactly who I am, or maybe you saw me on Facebook or you heard someone saying, oh, that guy, he's actually legitimately crazy. So I want to give you all a lore drop to answer the question, why are the Madman? It started when I was a little boy. By the way, we're trying some different stuff. I bought a couple of those like color changing LED bulbs you can control with your phone. So I'm recording a video. Video drops on Friday. I think I'm gonna try. I wanted to kind of front load everything in, with a bunch of content. I hate calling it content. It's stupid. It's so stupid. It just takes all the life out of it. But unfortunately, we live in this corporate hellscape. So here we are. But anyway, so we're going to music drop Friday. We have Triste, and I'm not exactly sure about the color blend. Obviously, I gotta kind of reposition stuff, but you get to watch the darkness in my soul. There are two wolves. Anyway, we're moving on. But I figure, some of you really, probably people who have known me for a long time, mind you, want to know exactly who or what am I? How does someone like this come to be? Well, let's go back to when I was a young jazzling, friends. So, back in the day, we had these things called televisions that were only used for watching shows that you didn't get to pick. They just happened to come on. Okay, fine. That was a stupid bit, but anyway, moving on. So we had TV. We had I can't remember what station I was watching. I was very young. Not very young, but like 12, 13 years old, and I was sitting there and I was watching something, and then this commercial for a smooth jazz radio station came on. Who do you think that man was playing the soprano saxophone, which eventually became my main instrument, even though I've kind of been Barry saxophone focused on this channel? But who do you think was the one in that commercial who was playing the saxophone? The soprano saxophone with his flowing curly locks, none other than Kenneth Gorlick, otherwise known as Kenny G. Yes, it is Kenny G's fault, so if you got a problem, you can go talk to him. You created me! But, yeah, it literally was Kenny G playing in a commercial for a smooth jazz radio station in Boston, Massachusetts. And I looked, I was sitting there, and I was like, that is going to be my future. Well, I fucked up, didn't I? So, I got so I asked my parents for a saxophone for Christmas. Now, not realizing that I came from a blue collar family, money is kind of tight, but I remember going and running down Christmas morning, and it's like, oh, look at all the, there's this like little tiny package there. I was like, oh man, maybe next year. So, and it was I didn't know what it was at the time. It was the neck of a saxophone. It was a little surprise. My parents gave me a surprise, so I got that. I got the neck, boom, boom. I honked and squeaked on it for a few weeks, and I started taking lessons. We're gonna move on, but the reason I continued playing back then, and the reason I still am doing this nonsense now, is because back then, before my first or second lesson, my neighbor lady, she saw me with the little saxophone getting in my mom's car to go for my lesson, and she said, you'll quit by Christmas. She cursed me. No, but yeah, so essentially, I do it then as I do now, out of spite. Not really, but I I kind of, persevered despite the enormous odds against you, So, yeah, that was kind of a funny little bit. But, so yeah, and life goes on. I go to Berkeley. And Berkeley, like when I was in high school, I wasn't a popular kid, as you probably could have guessed. I saw the future, what kids like me, would normally face with a school full of animal children from East Boston. So I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to bother with this shit. I am just going to keep to myself and just, read my books, practice my music, avoid them. And I was lucky because I was a fat kid, but I was also a strong kid. I was strong fat, So people realized, because we had the strength test and stuff, and they realized that, you could put up the barbell so many times. I think it was like 30 or whatever. But, so they left me alone. But then, this was in the early 90s, early 90s, and 96, 97. There was a major event that happened in a high school that we're not going to mention here. So I went from, just like the kid who kept to himself to, oh shit, I think he might be crazy. So I don't need you to look up what events happened in the mid to late 90s involving high school, so you could probably figure that one out. But anyway, so I made it out. High school, I didn't mess with anybody. I just kind of got out, and finally I did my little Berkeley. You had to record a cassette tape, and I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. Like, I was mainly an ear player before I got to Berkeley, So I had good ears, but my knowledge of theory was not great. My sax teacher at the time, he taught me everything. He went to Berkeley, so he was showing me the stuff. So I had a basic understanding of like what the chords were and all that, but I knew basic math, but I didn't know the algebra, that kind of deal. But he did a lot of ear training with me, so even though I couldn't like mentally do the math, so to speak, I actually could hear it and replicate it and understand that way. So that's how I learned, how to play through chord progressions and stuff. And it's a constant process, but when so when you kind of go through like that, then you start hearing things in your head, not voices, but you start hearing cool things that you want to play that you haven't heard. Like, it's weird, it's like the more stuff you listen to, the more ideas you get for your own personal vocabulary. It's not like jazz schools right now kind of went into, it's kind of what the worst of classical music has become, where it's just like, play it exactly like everybody else has ever played it. Do not deviate. Pass the jury, get the chair, that kind of stuff. That's kind of what jazz has become. It's like there's so many kids there, and they're at an extremely high level of technical competence. And definitely light years ahead of me when I went to Berkeley. But like, it's like that's it. That's all you're getting. You're getting technical competency, and even the inflections that are used, that are taught, seem robotic. So it's just not something I want to do. So the more I listen and hear, and I always had good ears, and then I started hearing things that I wanted to play, and I started trying to work those into the theory that I was learning at Berkeley. And after a while, you're like, you could shed through the Omni book and do all that, but why? Like, I practice it then for reading. It's great for reading, but you play a Charlie Parker solo note for note, and it's like, I don't want to hear myself play Charlie Parker. I want to hear Charlie Parker play Charlie Parker. I don't want to hear myself. I don't want to hear like some other kid. It's like half of Instagram like now is like listening to kids play other people's solos, and it's like, oh wow, I'm in the practice rooms again. Yay. Except now these kids have advertising budgets, and yeah, it doesn't quite work. Anyway, So Berkeley there was a lot of stuff, but we're doing kind of a mini lore drop here. So we're gonna be cutting ahead. Why Albano the Madman? I have to remind myself so I can sort of stay on topic with my weird brain. So, you know, we could talk about Berkeley in a separate video, and that's pretty much its own thing. But anyway, so we're going to cut forward a few years. We're going to cut to when I moved to New York. And, you know, I had a band. I recorded an album. And I wanted to... I was looking, it was one of those websites, one of those kind of build your own Flash website kind of deals where you just input some basic stuff and it spits out like a website that looked presentable. So I'm sitting there and thinking. Now, through all this time, I was always laughing and making jokes and, you know, being loud. I mean, I was practicing. I got to a point where, you know, things were starting to happen, which was good. But, you know, this was before the 2008 financial crisis, so that we'll figure in later. But, you know, so I was in New York. I was feeling good, but, you know, people don't like when you have a personality in serious music, and I consider jazz a serious music. So when you deviate from the norm, which is some kid wearing a suit looking like he just crawled out of a locker he was shoved into, you know, playing his bebop licks and, you know, playing the session at Smalls and everybody going, yeah, man, that was great. You know, when you deviate from that and you have a weird personality or a little eccentric, people start talking that you might actually be crazy. And that was already in my head. I already knew that. I already knew I was not like the other people. So, as I'm making my website, see, I actually managed to circle around at a pertinent time. I was like, well, what? I need something. I want something catchy. So, you know, people think I'm crazy. Maybe the Madman. Of course, when you type that into your search engine, Google was just really starting to come along at the time. So you pump that in, and of course, like every super like edgy bro is like, I'm the Madman. So, but you know, I also was stupid at the time, so I was like, okay, I'll use my name, Albano the Madman, and it sounds pretty good. It's definitely. It doesn't hang too long. It's kind of punchy. You know, lots of consonant sounds, you know, in the name, you know. So, Albano the Madman. Okay, albanothemadman.com. Everybody thinks I'm crazy. Well, I'm the Madman now. That's how that name came to be. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We're doing more lore drops. This is more kind of a silly little thing to get myself recording more and trying to see what this looks like with all the new colors and stuff. So, you know, that's pretty much it. Bye.